Okay, Kinsey, what is
Yes.
the gossip that you have for us this morning?
Okay, so over 20,000 people this week watched you and I discuss Omid Scobie's new book, Endgame. And I received an anonymous message on my website after our conversation. And this, I'm not making any statements. I'm not making any accusations. Just an incredible point was made to me. They said that they couldn't go into where they worked, but it is in the hospitality industry. And they said, go back and investigate the stories that we have actually talked about right here on this show about the Sussexes staying at hotels in Los Angeles, California. And they told me to keep in mind that after the debacle with the mail, after the debacle where there was a chain of emails found that proved that Harry and Meghan had collaborated with the book Finding Freedom. They said, go back, investigate the Sussexes staying at some Los Angeles-based hotels, and keep in mind that if there is any sort of physical paper handed to the author of Endgame, there is no digital footprint. And they said that they wanted me to investigate that. So that's just a question that's been thrown out there.
So is there an implication that they might have been staying in the hotel at the same time as Omid Scobie, and that perhaps they could have...
That is what they're at. That is what the suggestion is. That's what what they're asking me to pursue. And it was all very, it was from an anonymous source that said, I work in the hospitality industry, but I'm not going to give too many details because I don't want to lose my job. But here are some things that, here's a direction I want to send you in.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Well, we should dig that up because, of course, you're talking about when we spoke about this.
I was like, I've got like 6 hours to, how do I get a membership to that exclusive bungalow in 6 hours and, knock on every door there.
Because you're talking about when we did a live of Our Majesty podcast this week and thousands of people watched it, and you can find it on YouTube. And so they're suggesting that if there was a collaboration, which let's not forget, the Markles, Harry and Meghan completely deny. They deny that they contributed to Endgame and the like, but if there was, it could have been perhaps it could have happened in person.
Right, versus any sort of email exchanges. And also, the Sun on Sunday got a hold of the original Dutch published book.
Yes.
And have you seen this yet, Christo? That they have more passages that were not featured in the inevitable print of Endgame. Now, these passages are pretty vicious towards Prince William, and Omid quotes a lot of people close to the Sussexes that are not actually featured, Sussex-based sources that are not featured in what inevitably turned out to be printed.
So, so in the version that ended up in Holland, the Dutch version, there are direct references to sources in the Sussex camp that don't end up in the version that has ended up around the rest of the world.
This is the Sun on Sunday, and one of the quotes from the Dutch version calls Prince William heartless for denying Prince Harry a spot on the flight to the Queen's deathbed. And it says that...
Go on, tell us what it said.
It says the Dutch text also claims that Prince William was still angry with his brother at the time of Queen Elizabeth's death, based solely on that 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey. The specific excerpt recounts the events in the hours before the monarch's death in September of last year, when senior members of the royal family rushed to Balmoral by her bedside. So they, referring to the Sussex source referring to Prince William as heartless and still angry with Prince Harry, according to The Sun.
Wow. Okay, so clearly there was a version that was naming these two royals that was far harsher on Prince William, the Prince of Wales, that was withdrawn and another version was decided on, but somehow that version, the harsher version, ended up being translated. That is inevitably...
Just in Holland.
That is
just in Holland.
Just in Holland. That is inevitably what ended up happening. And Julian Drucker from 5 News, who was on the show yesterday morning, who knows Omid Scobie, he suggested that, he didn't say this as a result of anything that Omid Scobie had said, but he suggested that if you were going to do a publicity stunt where you were going to have to pulp a load of copies of your book, you would choose a place that was so small that there would only be 5,000 copies. Do you see what I mean? It wasn't like it was France or North America where this leak happened. It was a very, very small place. So if there was going to be a publicity stunt, well, 5,000 copies in the scheme of the amount of publicity that it's gained is nothing. So the more cynical among us...
And I kept saying, wow, what an expensive publicity stunt. But you're right. In the grand scheme of things, the 5,000 copy beachside bonfire is nothing compared to having to pull that book in the United States.
Yes, or France or the UK, or places where there are so many copies that you would have ready in bookstores, but the place where they ended up with all of these copies with the wrong information wrong in inverted commas, was in a place where there was only 5,000 copies printed, one of the smallest markets in the world. So the cynical among us might say that that was chosen in order to keep costs down, but publicity very, very high. Okay, when we return, we'll talk more about some of these revelations that are in the book. Oh, we'll find out as well, talking about pulping books, find out how Spare is doing this morning as well. We've got an update on that this morning, which, talking about bonfires, we might have the perfect kindling for it, and that is the copies of Spare that no one's buying at the moment. All of that and more when we return here on TalkTV. Morning, Christo here on TalkTV, and still joined by Kinsey for our Right Royal Roundup.
Kinsey's Right Royal Roundup.
Hello, Kinsey.
That was so beautiful.
There we go. So we've got one with me and one with you, and we're going to use both.
I love it. I love it.
Good. Now, of course, we're talking a lot this morning about Endgame and, of course, Omid Scobie. Let's just remind ourselves, actually, because he's been doing 1 or 2 interviews this week. Let's just remind ourselves of who Omid Scobie actually is.
Stop.
No, sorry. That's a picture of Virgil Tracy from the Thunderbirds. Oh dear, I'm sorry. It's an easy mistake to make. Sorry, can we have Omid? Have we got a picture of Omid? No, that's Virgil Tracy again from Thunderbirds. Unfortunately. Oh, there he is.
Oh, my goodness.
There's Omid, and there's his twin as well. So it's very easy to make that mistake, which is ironic when we're talking about who the puppet actually is.
Oh my gosh, that's so savage. Well, I thought you were going to say, which we should remind our viewers again for the 570th time since I've started covering this book. Harry and Meghan, through a third party, not front and center, not themselves. They have not released an official statement like I do believe they did with Finding Freedom. Harry and Meghan, through a third party, have said that they are not affiliated with Omid Scobie's book. Omid Scobie says on his life, on his family's life, Harry and Meghan are not involved in Endgame. But a really great point was made by...
by the way, he didn't say on his family's life, if I remember rightly, they're not involved with Endgame. He said on his family's life, this was not a publicity stunt from him.
Yes. Thank you for correcting me.
But he has, you're right, he has denied that he has spoken to them directly, but he has acknowledged that he's spoken to friends of theirs.
Correct. Yes. He says that he's not besties with Meghan Markle, but they have friends in common, even though we know that Meghan's circle of friends is so small. She has more toilet seats in her house than she has friends since meeting and marrying Prince Harry. But, here's an interesting theory.
Yes.
Would it make sense for, let's pretend that Meghan Markle is working on the book that Tom Bauer has said that she is working on. The only proof that we really have of that is that Harry and Meghan have a relationship with Penguin Random House. And we'll talk about Harry's book in a second, but Harry's book For a Minute was a success analytically for Penguin Random House. We know Meghan had a diary that she kept in Frogmore.
Oh, that was the threat of publishing the diary that she mentioned in the Cut interview, wasn't it?
In the Cut interview, that's right. But would it be beneficial if Meghan Markle is working on this biography to have Omid Scobie's Endgame or a leak be the actual physical thing? I don't know how to put this. Be the person that outs the royal racists. That way, she doesn't get the pushback if she delves into that story in her book.
Understand.
Because if she would have been the person to reveal it, legally, she might have been attacked. I do think people would have, fans of the royal family would have attacked her. Would it be beneficial to her that someone else leaks it?
I understand. So Omid Scobie essentially does the heavy lifting, or the publishers of Omid Scobie do the heavy lifting regarding these names, alleged names being released, because we don't know for sure that it was them. We've already got their word for it. And therefore then she can follow up on it in her book with everyone knowing who it is she's actually referencing. However, she has not herself revealed these names.
No legal consequences, no family consequences. It's already out there, so she expects that she won't receive as negative as a reaction as she would have if she were the person to expose them, if straightforward. But she still gets to play the victim card, and she's still giving the publisher all the dirty details. And that's, as you know, with the Netflix deal, all that these huge companies want that have cut them these ginormous checks.
And let's not forget as well that there is a limited window as to how long these books will sell, because apparently, according this morning to We Buy Books, right, which is an online trading platform for people who've got books, they read them and then want to get rid of them, Harry's biography Spare was the most traded in biography of the year. A spokesperson for the book specialist, which turns unwanted books into cash, says that Prince Harry's Spare was our most traded in biography of the year. We accepted 459 copies. We limit how many we accept in a time frame. So chances are, if we accepted every copy, there'd have been a lot more. And apparently, although it retailed at £28, We Buy Books says that customers could get as much as £2.40 for their second-hand copy if they wished to. Now, of course, as part of our Majesty podcast, we regularly delve into the pages of Spare, which I know is one of the highlights of the podcast for you, Kinsey, when I read whatever page of Spare I happen to open at the time. Are you surprised to hear that this is such a traded-in book, and does it reflect the quality of the book, or do you think because it was such a bestseller, it's not surprising that there are that many being traded in?
Well, don't forget, I think it was 6 months ago or less, we heard from a TripAdvisor company that said that they received the items that when they would organize a trip for somebody, the hotel sends them everything that was left in the hotel room. And they had so many copies of Spare that they couldn't give them away. They said everybody keeps leaving their copies of Spare on their vacation. They're shipping them to us, and we have a library full of Spare. So we heard that from a company that organized trips. But then this last week, I talked to the owner of Kitson, and I asked him, that's a cute little boutique. It's very famous here in LA. And I asked him if he was going to carry Endgame. And he said, no, I'm not going to carry Endgame. And he explained to me why he didn't carry Spare. And he said he felt like Spare's numbers because he's a buyer for a boutique, and he said Spare's numbers were inflated, that it's not how many books were sold, it's how many books were ordered by the bookstores, and that's not necessarily a reflection of how many books were physically purchased and taken out of that store.
So,
and he said,
I understand. So you could call something a bestseller based on what the stores have bought. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bestseller. It's a wholesale bestseller, essentially. That doesn't reflect how many copies ended up on the street.
And when you talk about, what is the reason? Could it be quality? I just, keep in mind, it was crazydaysandnights.net that reported 2 weeks ago that Prince Harry was disappointed in the fact that he was not nominated for a Grammy. He expected to be nominated for a Grammy for his narration of the book, and he did not receive that. So maybe it was quality of the book. Maybe that is why people are returning it, because they're reading it going, this is like reading a copy of Star magazine.
You know what I would do? I told you this a couple of nights ago when we spoke. I would have a copy of Spare put in every hotel room in the country instead of the Bible.
Next to the Bible.
No, instead of the Bible. I think it's such quality work that it would, instead of the Bible, that is the only guidance you need, is Prince Harry's ramblings. Now, talking of which, I don't know if you've seen this.
Wait, I have one more story.
Go on.
Apparently, someone moved all of the copies of Endgame to the toilet paper aisle of a Tesco. I need pictures, or it didn't happen, but that is the funniest thing I've heard today.
And it was at a Tesco in the UK, was it?
Yeah.
I'm looking this up now. Endgame Tesco.
Toilet paper.
Let's have a look at. Oh yes. Hold on. Where is Endgame? No, that's one of it in the book section. Hang on. I haven't seen that. Let's just do Endgame and Loo Roll. I dread to think what might come up. Loo.
Oh, that's right. We have different. We talk differently over here.
No, there's actually a lot of people on Twitter saying Endgame is Loo Roll. But that's all I can find. Now, listen, just before we go, I have got to ask you about this front page. It's the Express today. Charles, I'll never give up on Harry. It's saying basically that the King is refusing to disown Prince Harry and believes he can still mend their relationship, and apparently is broken-hearted by the latest claims to rock the family. What do you make of this? Because, of course, Prince Charles, now King Charles, but he was Prince Charles at the time of these allegations of him being this terrible racist. He's actually got, him and Princess Catherine have the most to lose in all of this, being named. Do you believe this? Do you think he's being incredibly forgiving?
I think it proves his innocence. I mean, I was talking today about just the idea of him asking about what the baby might look like. This is a man that was legitimately surprised when Harry exited the womb that he had red hair. He was curious about what his own son was going to look like. He was surprised by what his own son looked like, according to Diana. So I think that the entire exchange was innocent. And I think Meghan does not know as much about the family as Harry does, and as people that studied the family. Obviously, she told us she, was having to Google the national anthem. And I think something innocent happened that she was highly sensitive about. And I think that a headline like that, if that proves that he truly feels like it was a misunderstanding, he's hurt by it, he's upset by it, and he loves his boy, and he's innocent.
He thinks that, apparently the quote is here, a source has said that he thinks that parenting rather than punishment will build bridges. He wants to parent Harry. I mean, I think that the bridges have been burned. I'm not sure that they could be built.
Yeah, I mean, if my mom called me and told me that I needed to be home by 9 today, I'd be like, I'm a grown up. You're not going to tell me what to do anymore.
Well, if my mother called and told me to be home by 9, but you've not met my mother, I'd be home by 8:30 just to make sure. Listen, Kinsey, as always, Wonderful to have you this morning. That's Kinsey